Wednesday, April 3rd, 2019. The review of work session discussion meeting minutes.
I did not have any.
Either did not. No changes? Okay. Department head report. Dan Colville is listed. I'm sure you have a couple things.
A couple things. Nothing major. We had last year we had an engineer come in and look at some of the pavilions at Brady's Run Park, and they were found to be structurally sound, okay. Over the winter, we had a tree fall in shelter 2, and it tore out the electrical service to the shelter. Got a material list of what it would cost to replace that, and it's $1,192.91 just for the material, $75 inspection fee. Speaking with Tim Ishman, he says that shelter that's rented twice a year. It's rented in May and in September. It's by the horse arena. It's rented by the folks that use the horse arena. Looking for direction. If you guys want to go ahead and fix this electric on this shelter, it's not a nice shelter. It's not used. It's not rented that often.
What's the purpose that they use the shelter for? Is it an event that they hold?
Yeah, I guess
Do they need electric?
When they rent it, they rent that shelter. This is what Tim told me. They rent the horse arena, that shelter, and shelter 3, which shelter 3 does have electricity. There's been there's more damage to this shelter. I have pictures I stopped and looked at on the way down here. There was actually discussion of tearing the shelter down because of the damage that was done to the roof and everything like that. I stopped and looked at it. To me, it's not structural damage. It's cosmetic. There's some things on the eaves that are snapped off and some boards. I don't recommend putting money into this shelter simply because of the fact that it's in the long range plan. It's not going to be there. It's going to be eliminated.
Is it rented?
It is rented for May and September.
For those two.
For those two events, but that's it. And that's, you know, I'm also, you know, like I said, I'm not recommending tearing the shelter down. It can still be used. It's just
No electric.
No electric, and it's not pretty. It's not pretty, you know, but it can be used without electricity, and there is electricity at shelter 3. And you know, speaking with Tim said that he would notify the agency that's renting it, and let them know that, you know, it wouldn't have electricity if we decide to not put the money into it.
Well, why don't we see if Tim can notify the people that are renting it to see if that is a problem with them. Mm-hmm. If it's not, then I think it's a non-issue because it's in the long-term plan that it's no longer going to be there.
You say it's safe?
Yes, yeah. The damage that's done, it's not to any main beams or any structures.
I'm okay with your recommendation on not fixing it and letting it still be rented out as long as you're structurally safe, with it being in the long range plan to eventually be taken down.
We purchased a new box van some time ago. We still have the old one. It's the frame is cracked on it, but it still has some value to maybe a farmer or someone that could drive it on their property or something like that. We also, it's a 1997 Chevy S10 that the maintenance crew here at the courthouse uses. It was given to DPW by former emergency management director Wes Hill. It won't pass inspection. It's just not worth putting the money into there that it needs. So I have that vehicle, and then we also have an old dump truck that's pretty rotted out, and it won't pass inspection either. And I'm looking for some direction from the board as to, do we want to put these vehicles out for bid? Or do we want to hold on to them if there's any plans for another auction, which I don't know if there's an auction coming down the road for probably a couple years. I think the vehicles, you could probably get some money out of the vehicle, we can get more money out of the vehicles if we put them out for bid than we would just a scrap day.
Well, are we currently with the auction? Are we under contract with them? Can we put it out? Can we have a running auction because it's online? It's not.
I don't know if we can have a running auction. I would think we could have something like that. I know they do continual work for other counties, Hostetter's that is.
Yeah.
We don't have anything currently in place.
We don't have anything in place to that effect. Along that line, though, it's my understanding in speaking to different directors and department heads that we haven't done too well with the vehicles. We've done well with other types of property that we've sold on the auction, but vehicles probably might even be able to get more money scrapping them. I don't know.
I have a half dozen vehicles that I could sell now, but we got so little after all the fees and costs from the auction last year. If there's some way the county could set up a Craigslist account, we have some vehicles that I think we'll get more than we will through the system we used last year.
Let me get on that. I'll report back.
Look into it and see, whether we do a bid for not all the vehicles at once, but put a bid out with a list of different vehicles. What days would be good to your drug forfeiture? I would assume that's what your vehicles are.
Park them somewhere, wash them, and give people a day to come look at them. But I would suggest Craigslist or something.
Yeah, I mean,
they're worth some money.
In my past experiences, we would just advertise them in the local newspaper or something like that, and the vehicles can, they're listed. They can be viewed at the Department of Public Works.
Check with Mario Leone. They just got rid of one of their police. It was a Jeep, I think. It was a drug forfeiture they took. They used it for several years, and they just did it online, but they did it themselves. They didn't go through an auctioneer, and it was like their own self-bidding system. I check with him because they did that last spring maybe or last fall. I think I remember seeing it.
Drug, but I've done it with them
for trucks or whatever.
Trucks, yeah.
So.
Sure.
If you could get back to us on that.
Sure.
Anything else, Dan?
That's it.
Well, I did tell Dan I was going to bring this up during this lister's report, but I think it makes sense to bring it up during his report. This is a letter and some documentation that we received from the Beaver County Conservation District. This was relative to Brush Creek, and as you know, there's a soccer organization that utilizes the field there towards the front of the park, which has always been very wet. The organization, tried to correct that themselves, and they dug a ditch, and so the Conservation District let us know that that's not acceptable. So we just received this information yesterday. I'm going to reach out to the organization. My understanding is Dan has advised them to stop digging, and now I think Garen and I are going to reach out to the organization to start repairing the ditch that was dug.
I got a call last week from Jack Hope, the crew leader out there at Brush Creek, and he had some concerns of some work that they did over the weekend whenever there was no one there. So I went down and I met with Jack and I saw what they did. So I contacted Mr. Zona, and he came down and we met with him, and I asked him if he had filled out a volunteer project request form, which he said he hadn't. So I gave him one to fill out, which I do have here now, that I will give to Cindy for you folks to look at, and I'll give a copy to the solicitors as well. There was some accusations made of the crew out there, and some feelings were hurt. So peacemaker and everything. I don't know that, our union employees are gonna sign off on letting them do any more work out there.
Will they sign off on letting them fix the work, do you think?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Who did this?
The soccer organization.
The soccer
organization.
When no one was there, like on a weekend.
In whose mind is it acceptable to go into a county park and start digging? I mean, this, now, this blows my mind. So your employees then have to go fix this, and that's what the problem is?
He is proposing in his request to do volunteer work to, I believe that's where he's getting at here, is to remedy what they did. Describe the proposed volunteer project: rake fill from outflow drain marked in red in the attachment back onto playing surfaces per recommendations from Beaver County Conservation District.
So,
The question is.
arguably, that's bargaining unit work. And so before we would even consider giving them our blessing to fix it themselves, we would want the union to sign off. And I think what Dan is saying
They may not.
is that the union might not want to because they have been disparaged in like social media by this organization.
I don't know how the two of you feel about this, but I'll tell you, I think that our guys should repair this, and I think that we should bill this soccer team for the work that our guys have to do to fix this. This is the first time I'm hearing of it, and that's off the top of my head. That's unacceptable. I back our guys 100%.
Let me, we received this yesterday. I wanted it to bring to your attention so you didn't hear about it otherwise, but I will reach out to Mr. Zona and start a conversation, and then I'll keep you.
How much, money do you think something like this would cost?
There's no material.
It's just gonna be labor.
I mean, maybe some straw. They're recommending put some straw down but the guys are there. So I mean, as far as labor.
While we have a trench, can we put a drain in it? Obviously.
Or at least gravel. At least gravel. Put some gravel in there and.
Obviously, the drench is there because they thought.
That's actually a good idea.
Who would come? I mean, who makes? I mean, would that be somebody in your department to say this is where the water drains? I mean, are they off 5 feet? Are they off a foot? Or
No, they're pretty much right on where the problem is.
Probably dealt with a lot of ones.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to bring a machine. No one sees these. We have these pictures, but they had to bring a machine out there.
They've done that by hand.
By hand.
They've done
With
it
a
by
shovel.
They've done it, yes.
Yeah, it looks like a shovel is.
Oh yeah, you see shovel marks on the top one.
Yes.
I mean, it's like 100 foot long. It's like 2 foot deep, so it's not a small trench.
Mom's work the concession stand, dad's dig the trench.
Can you look at the possibility of a drain, and then you're gonna talk to this Mr.
Yeah, we'll-
Zona, or is that what you said?
Yeah, we'll work through this issue
I realize
with
the shovel.
Yeah.
our union and with the soccer association.
And just for the record, he does not seem to be a difficult person. I think he's willing to work, with us instead of against us. I don't think he's the one that was going on social media. But, in the same sense, they can't just go and do things without notification, and I can understand, that they want to try to make things nice for their children, but same sense, they can't go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean, look into, piping, that's very reasonable. And have they, since you've been here, have they requested us to, obviously we know they requested that the fields are wet and it's in the floodplain and everything else, but have they ever mentioned about we need to come put a trench in with a drain to us?
Not that I'm aware, not to.
Well, we get the complaints about the field being wet and everything, but they didn't forewarn us a week before saying, hey, if you don't fix this, we're gonna go do this. Okay.
I'm aware, yeah.
We'll keep you advised.
Any other department head report?
I'd like an executive session discussing personal matters.
Solicitor's report.
A couple of the department heads, I think it was now been 2 weeks ago, met with a group regarding the Act 39, the Guaranteed Energy Savings provision. And where we're at, this is a act is for savings through whether it be energy consumption, through lighting, through water, through HVAC use in the county, that if there are upgrades made to those systems, that the county ultimately would save money through the utility bills that they've paid. So we have met with this group. The next step would be to put together an RFQ, which we have the preliminary outline of it already. I just want your blessing to continue to move forward with it. At this point, no obligations on the county. We're just going to put out an RFQ, get qualified bidders who would be interested in the project to submit their qualifications and go from there.
I received another phone call from another organization that does this type of thing. So apparently the word is out that we are looking at something like this. So I'm good with putting the RFQ out and having them bid.
I'm okay with that.
So we'll continue to work through that process, get the RFQ out, and like I said, the next step is we'll get the qualifications in and go from there. And then the other matter we have is a personnel matter for an executive session.
Board of Commissioners report. I have a few things. First is Leslie Hallis, our director over at Children and Youth Services, sent the board an email late March and then followed it up again on April 1st, Monday, asking the board for approval to tell us that April is a National Child Abuse Awareness Month, and they would like to use this month as an opportunity to raise awareness locally, and would like permission to put approximately 100 pinwheels on the grounds of the courthouse with labels indicating April is the Child Abuse Awareness Month, listing a toll-free number to report abuse. She sent 2 emails over. I don't have a problem with it as long as the solicitors don't see a problem. Or does this open the door for other, I don't want to say other organizations? Now, I still think everyone has to get permission before anything gets put out there.
Yeah,
we ran into this. We ran into this with some signs put out there.
This is our agency.
That's what was going to be my next. It is our agency and something that they specialize in. Is there any issues?
Grass cutting?
They're probably going to start soon, huh? I'll get with the warden. It's done. I mean, I would think
Just
that.
have them cut it before she puts it in.
See if they could come out prior.
Does she want to put it out for the entire month?
I believe doesn't say, but I would think so for the entire month.
Something we could probably coordinate with the warden.
Yeah, and I don't think they're gonna run them over. I think Mr. Slappy will probably be the one to
I'm okay with
will take them out before they get to that section. Section of it. So I'm okay with it as long as the law department is okay with it.
Yeah, I don't see any issues with that.
I looked at it the same way as upstairs in your rotunda area, there is some brochures for the Women's Center and things like that, and I think that bringing attention to something like this is a really good idea, and this month is also Autism Month. So I like to promote those types of things to let people know about the awareness of them, so I'm all for that.
The second thing is Joe, with the land preservation, is coming down on his timeline to submit his application. One of the questions that was raised, I think, to the entire board was when you originally came, it was between like $5,000 and $20,000 to get the study or to get the work done. Now it's probably $120,000, correct?
What it was I didn't realize that in order for Vicki to get 50% match for her money, she needed extra money. So we just asked if it was possible for that. If it's not possible for the additional $100,000, the county could come up with a little bit so that she can show some good faith with whoever she's requesting money from, that the county is also backing this at some point. The $20,000 we originally asked for was for the incidental cost of survey, the appraisal, legal fees and all of that stuff. As far as the 50% max that she needs now, she passed her date. Her date, the last date was April the 10th, but she had to be prior to that with talking to them about different things, and she's already passed the part to work. She won't be able to apply for that money this year. But if we could get the $20,000 and get her started, then they would know how much money she needs, and if the county came up with a little bit of Act 13 money to start her on her 50% match, then she could maybe acquire the other rest of the 50% that she needs, and she could apply for it in January of next year, which is probably a lot closer to when she's actually going to need that part of the money. By the time we do the appraisal and the survey and all of that done, it's going to probably be the end of the year before she's going to know exactly how much money she's going to need to come up with it.
Okay, so I guess cut straight to the point. The ask is about 20,000 now.
Yeah.
Last time we talked to you, it was 20 plus the matching, and since the time frame, it's back to 20. Does the board have any questions or concerns about that?
I do. Joe, at this time, I feel as though I don't have enough information to be able to make a solid recommendation into removing those types of funds. I would need to have a stronger feeling of, can we postpone this? Are there other deadlines? Going from 5 to 20 to 120, and then 50%, I just don't feel like I have a handle on exactly what is needed and when. And
I understand.
so my thought process on that is to wait and get a better understanding before I make a decision.
But what about the original 20 that he needs?
I would refrain from doing that as well until I get a full understanding of the project.
Yeah,
We can set up a meeting to have Vicki come in and explain all. I don't know all of her stuff, so I'm kind of like playing on a wing and a prayer here with what I'm talking about. But if you guys want to meet with her, I can ask her to come in. We can sit down and go over everything she actually needs. The 20,000, I know what she needs there.
Let's talk about that then. The 20,000, what does that go to? Because you've came to us prior and talked about the 20,000, and then it just took us by storm whenever there was another 100 because that was brought up about the matching. But since that's off the table, can you review with us what the 20,000?
20,000. The appraisal runs roughly about $2,700, give or take a few bucks. Surveys, it depends on how much they have to get into. They can run as high as $4,000 or $5,000. Legal fees will be down toward the end, so that money wouldn't be spent till probably the end of the year or beyond. That's roughly, that's averaging between $3,000 and $4,500 on our farm, depending on how much work he gets into and has to cover everything. So the 20,000, and then there's her costs. The way the incidental costs are set up, it's appraisal, survey, legal fees, notification to the surrounding neighbors. All surrounding neighbors have to be notified, and that has to be by certified mail. And then other costs are her office costs. We keep them at pretty much a minimum on here because working out of the office. But with her, it's going to be a little bit different. So the 20,000 is probably pretty close to what she's going to need. She's going to have it pretty well tied up, just to get the farm in line to get ready to purchase the easement.
No.
The additional monies are for the easement purchase itself. Those are separate funds.
And this is probably not a question for you, but you may be able to answer it. So there's only one time a year that she could apply for this funding. It's in January.
I understand it, yes. It's in the early part of the year. April the 10th is her cutoff this year. I don't know if it's April the 10th every year or if it moves by the way the
fluctuates.
date moves.
Well, Corey's here, so if you get a chance today, go talk to him.
Okay.
Explain to him what's changed,
We did meet with him, Vicki and I met with him, that's how the other
Yeah,
$100,000.
but this has changed now.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
changed. He was under the assumption, I think,
Well, we were under the assumption that she could meet that, and then I talked to her last week
Yeah.
and found out that she has to start talking to the DCNR prior to the meeting. So she should have been talking to them maybe 6, 8 weeks ago and getting in line what she was gonna need.
Yeah. Go see him and explain to him that the 20,000 change.
I am okay with approving up to 20,000 for those specific reasons. Garen and Nate, I don't know, obviously this isn't really a contract, it would probably just be put into their budget, but if we could get something down in writing, what he's explaining to us what these monies are going to be used for, and they specifically have to be used for that, and almost like a do not exceed, and if it goes over, we're going to have to find the money elsewhere.
Yeah.
But I would be okay with that, and obviously we'll talk with Corey after. But he was still under the assumption that we were looking for the 120,
Right.
and I think that's why.
Well, that's what we were looking at because we thought we
Yeah,
were gonna
absolutely.
get that by April 10th, but now that we can't.
I just talked to him about it before the meeting, so.
If we can get something, say for next year, or get her started so she can start acquiring her half for the end of this year, then when they open up their DCNR
Process,
stuff
yeah.
in January, then she'd be able to apply right away and get her match money.
But my thought on this is, so you invest the $20,000 to get the survey and the legal and the appraisal, and that means you're committed to the project. Because if you don't follow this through, it's a wasted $20,000. So are we
We'll follow it through
prepared?
somehow. It's just that she has to come up with that other 50%. We're estimating right now that the farm's not gonna go over 200,000 because they're gonna follow the same guidelines as us. $4,000 an acre, it's a 50-acre farm.
To me, this is a piece of the puzzle, and if we don't have the whole puzzle worked out, why would I start building the puzzle? That's my thought process on this. I want a finished puzzle at the end.
I understand what you're saying.
I just want to save a farm.
Me too. We've done enough of them. One thing that everybody needs to remember is this is a voluntary program, and these people voluntarily apply. This gentleman's been on our list for 16 years. And he's been sitting back waiting his turn. And this is a way we're able to give him his turn. Unfortunately for him, he may not survive the week for it.
So I would get with Corey after this if you can. But as I said, I'm okay with the 20,000 as long as it does not exceed, and you could list those items. And if, I'm not saying show receipts for them, but you guys will know the cost if you've done this before. So.
We can provide all of that information, not a problem.
And the last thing I had was, as everyone knows, I traveled to Washington, D.C. yesterday to give a testimony in front of the Congress, the Subcommittee on Environmental and Climate Change under the Energy and Commerce Committee, and I gave a brief 6-page testimony on the workforce and the positive effects of the natural gas industry in Western PA and Beaver County. So it was a good trip. It was an experience to see how they operate their government. I've never been to the Capitol before. There was a couple different committee meetings going on, so they went back and forth. A congressman would leave for 5 minutes and come back, the question, and he would leave again. And I think it was really interesting because the governor from the state of Washington testified before me. He's a presidential candidate, so they really grilled him on both sides. There was no easy questions for him. So I told the congressman after, I said, this was a lot easier than coming here on a Wednesday for a work session. So, but I just wanted to give an update on what I was there for. So.
We shared in your excitement. We brought the TV up and we had a live stream going, and we watched all of those. However, there are some things that are swirling around that trip that I think need to be hashed out. And I don't know as if this is the forum, and although uncomfortable, I think that they still need to be addressed.
I'm open to answer any question.
Your trip, I was not notified until the day before, and not only not notified, I didn't know as what your testimony was going to be, and being a board of 3,
Yeah.
that was my concern, is that you would at least give us the opportunity to weigh in on something as pressing and as large as this.
So, I thought about that, and you know, I'm sorry that if anyone feels that way or they're betrayed because I didn't tell them. I was notified on Friday afternoon about the invitation. I was invited as Dan Camp, the county commissioner, not Dan Camp representing the Board of Commissioners. Obviously, my views on some of the questions, if you heard the testimony in the Q&A, are going to be different than probably what Commissioner Amadeo or Commissioner Egley had. So I was there taking my personal opinion to the testimony and not the board. So that's my discussion on that. As for not notifying, I didn't necessarily think it was important to notify. I probably should have, but I didn't. You know, when Commissioner Amadeo travels to Pittsburgh, or when Commissioner Egley travels to Pittsburgh to speak to the engineering society or whatever you may speak to, I know this is a larger scale. We aren't always notified. So if anyone feels that I should have notified, I apologize, but that's really my answer to that. But as for the testimony, you know, it came from me, and you know, if I would have got input from the 2 of you, I don't necessarily think it would have been a testimony from myself who was invited. If the board was invited as a whole, I think I would have approached the board that way.
I feel a little differently. I was asked whenever I was chair to testify to the EPA in regards to Shell, and went through the whole process, and the 3 of us wrote that testimony, and I feel that we are a board of 3, and when we present to that level of government, that you know, different angles, and you mentioned about, you know, going to Pittsburgh and talking to the Engineer Society, that's not testimony. That's an event and public speaking. And like when I talk to somebody at Giant Eagle, I'm not going to inform the 2 of you that I had the discussion in Giant Eagle. But when we're talking about testimony with the EPA and Congress, I would think that the courtesy would have been.
Courtesy is a good word. Yeah, I mean, but it goes back to, you know, this is a discussion not necessarily about the EPA and do we want to bring a large manufacturer here whenever that's what they were discussing. This is a discussion on climate control and global warming, and I'm not going to get into a debate with Commissioner Egley or Commissioner Amadeo, but I'm sure all 3 of us believe different things on what's going on with the climate. So, and that's you know, if you heard the 25-minute Q&A that was after the testimony, you know, my answers were there, and you know, obviously we all 3 have different opinions. We may all agree on it, but I didn't feel it was important to ask how you guys felt on it, because on the invitation that I sent the 2 of you, when I told the 2 of you, I didn't tell Commissioner Amadeo first, I didn't tell Commissioner Egley first. You saw on there it was invited, the invitation was sent to me and not the entire board.
We didn't have this much discussion when President Trump's invited us to the White House to speak and give our opinion on how government monies flow from the federal government to the state. I see no difference here. I mean, I know I'm not going to get invited to testify because my party's not there, but it's still government. There's 3 levels of government. We all work together. It's called the division of powers, separation of powers. And I always say this, and I say it all the time. We have 2 banks in government. One's in Washington, D.C., and one's in Harrisburg. I don't care who goes and who testifies or whatever. I don't think there was anything done wrong. I don't feel slighted. That I got the same email that you got. I'm a little honored that they chose somebody from Beaver County to go there and testify, and I had no idea what he was testifying to.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm surprised to hear that.
Yeah.
Okay.
that was my report.
So I have a few things. A couple weeks ago, I had called out Aliquippa and South Heights as to not bringing in or turning in their building permits, and I am happy to tell you that when I call somebody out for not doing something, I call them out for doing something as well. So Aliquippa has turned in their building permits back from 2016 to current. So happy to report that they're compliant and they're cooperating with our assessment office. I think I have, the invitations have gone out for our Beaver County Focus. This is the continued progress of the comprehensive plan that is due at 2020. And it's a collaborative effort for us to bring in the community to weigh in how Beaver County moves forward in what direction. So that event is going to be held in on the 12th of April at CCBC. So just wanted to thank all of the Planning Commission and the boards that are helping promote that. We were asked by Kathy Narin to sit in on the request from our veteran satellite offices. One is in Ambridge, one's in Aliquippa, and one's in New Brighton. They're requesting some increased funding. I believe $15,000 is allocated to each of those facilities a year, and they're asking for a bump. And so we're thinking, we met with Kathy to hear what her thoughts were on this, and maybe our suggestion was maybe to ask Corey to meet with those satellite offices and get a sense of what they're really asking, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine. I since I wasn't able to make the meeting yesterday, I reached out to somebody who sits on the board, Larry, and
Guggen?
Yes, and he wasn't at the meeting, was he?
No.
So one of the suggestions may have been is there any money or is there anything we could do with our office here at the courthouse? And so this might be a question for you, and maybe not necessarily have it open as many days and be able to move our workers from down there to these other offices to give them more of a support instead of actually giving them physical money. I don't know, because they travel. So the veterans office may only be open on Tuesday half a day in the courthouse, but the second half of the day they're going to these satellite offices and supporting that staff or supporting and helping the needs that they need. I don't know if that.
That's what the request is for.
No, that's not what the request is for. I don't know. That was just one of the veterans who's very involved. That's maybe a suggestion instead of giving them actual funds. So it's something I think But I'm okay with them to meet with Corey and discuss what they're going to use the funds if they're requesting $5,000 each. What they're going to use it on.
Well, the last time we created Kitty, because some of them don't need as much money as the others, so they would file a report and ask for the money. But what happened was one satellite got most of the money.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so that's probably why we didn't do it again. So we have to sit down and talk with them and see what their needs really are. That's a great suggestion, though.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if that's what their needs are. If their needs are staffing or getting the work done, it's in the office. I know our office is busy downstairs, so we're not closing that.
They each proposed a balanced budget. They have a budget that's, the one was just a little bit off, but they were balanced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that idea of our staff going out.
Neither did I.
I was
That was
thinking
one of
about bringing the amount of resources that are sent to the different communities and how those satellite offices actually came into be is that before cars, these people couldn't travel to the courthouse. Now we're evolved and we have a bus system and cars, and now maybe the need of those satellite offices have exceeded the need. I don't know that. So I never thought about our staff going out to their offices. I was thinking the satellite office is condensed into providing for the veterans here in our office. So that's out of the box thinking. So
So that was someone that brought it to me.
Okay.
But I'm okay with them getting with Corey to talk about what their actual needs are, what they're gonna, I guess, spend that extra $5,000 on. So.
Also, the county commissioners last week traveled to Harrisburg for our annual county commissioners conference. And this year they had focused on reassessment. So there were a few classes that our staff was partaking in regards to reassessment. And I wanted to thank them for making that trip to learn and get advice and have conversations about reassessment with other counties that have gone through this process. Other classes that were very interesting is I took a class that was updating on the county code, which there are updates for hotel tax and the sunshine, and so there were different things, and I found that very, very helpful. Last night, I attended the New Sewickley council meeting, and in that council meeting, it was discussed by the chief of police that there was the chief asked for permission for a gentleman to be promoted into the drug task force, and that was approved. And then the conversation turned to these traffic lights that are being used to track license plates. And what I don't think I knew is that Dave, our district attorney, is participating in that conversation and promoting that, and actually using some funds out of the drug task force, $5,000 towards an intersection for these devices. Am I relaying that correctly?
Yes, let me, there is I'll be very clear. What we're talking about is a post-crime license plate tracking system to be able to follow a defendant and make a timely arrest. The cameras we're talking about are not red light cameras, they're not traffic cameras, they're not traffic enforcement cameras, they cannot be used for that purpose. What happened here is they have new technology which permits you to put a camera at an intersection, which identifies the type of vehicle and distinguishing characteristics of the vehicle, and the license plate reads the bumper stickers, reads an Uber sticker, using computer algorithms. It's a relatively inexpensive process, about $400 to $600 per camera, tied to a massive network. But what happens is, when they were bringing the National Golf Classic to Oakmont about 5 years ago, from what I understand, the national golfing people, and also in a post 9/11 world, the federal agencies wanted to ensure that there was adequate security for anti-terrorism. So they used federal funds and drug funds in Pittsburgh through the district attorney in Allegheny County to install surveillance cameras. These are license plate readers in order to track traffic in and out of Oakmont. And at that point, it was a very expensive system, but they were able to use that system for a lot of crime-solving benefits during and after that event. So the district attorney in Allegheny County has at this point used exclusively drug funds, drug forfeiture funds, to install hundreds of cameras. I think we'll probably be approaching 200 intersections and locations in Allegheny County by the end of this year. And what's happened is, you can say there's a bank robbery. Someone in the bank says the green pickup truck went south at Route 65. You can use the license plate readers to then look at, say, every green pickup truck that went south on 65 in the last hour.
Mhm.
And you could identify, say, the 12 green pickup trucks. Then the teller can look at the pictures and say, that's the one. Then you use that camera or other cameras as a procedure on Allegheny County to get a picture of the driver, a picture of the vehicle. Now you know it's a Nissan, whatever it is, and you know the license plate. And you make an arrest within 30 minutes.
Mhm.
It's been very successful in solving serious crimes. The DA in Allegheny County has been working with the DAs in Butler and Westmoreland and Washington and me to figure out ways to expand the system throughout western Pennsylvania. And what we've done is there is a database. This is a single source provider. There are 2 vendors which sell and install the cameras that tie into this database. So what happens is, let's say Ambridge, or in this case, we're talking New Swiftly. I'm working with New Swiftly to install a license plate reader system at Lodi Road and Freedom Crider Road at one of the 3 major gateways into Allegheny County, Granbury. By putting a system there, the installation cost is often borne by local commercial establishments. I've offered $5,000 to every municipality who participates in the system. You install the camera system. The total cost anywhere from $11,000 to $18,000 per intersection, depending on the complexity of the intersection.
Right.
And then there's an annual internet cost and a maintenance agreement. What happens is the police department then pays $2,000 per year to gain access to the database. So let's say New Swiftly would pay $2,000 a year to access this database. Then they would be able to track, say if there's a crime in New Swiftly. Let's say we have a drug case and we're aware that there's a drug trafficker using a certain rental vehicle and mules to take drugs to and from the bus station in Pittsburgh. We could use these license plate readers to solve a crime within minutes or to track drug traffic. But because New Swiftly, by paying $2,000 per year, would gain access to, again, over 200 intersections. I've been working with the chiefs of police now in Beaver County for about 5 months to lay the groundwork for a program here. I hope to have between 20 and 30 intersections covered in Beaver County by the end of this calendar year. Right now, I'm working with the district attorney in Allegheny County to install the cameras on Route 51 coming from Allegheny County to and from Alquippa, and from Allegheny on Route 65 from Allegheny to and from Ambridge. We're working with other municipalities in Brighton Township, for example, and Center Township, and Hopewell, and Chippewa, and Economy, and Conway. Most of the major municipalities with major commercial districts. The installation costs in most cases will be covered by the local businesses. So example, if you're putting it near a Walmart or a McDonald's or a Sheetz or a hospital, it's a great investment for a business, a bank, to put one of these camera systems in a major intersection. You tie this network together. Beaver has already installed, I think it's 7 or 8 intersections, and they're extending out towards industry. We're talking to schools, putting the license plate readers at the main entrances to schools, so that if you have somebody with a PFA or an alert or security issue with a school, if a problem parent or student then enters the school's safety zone, we can, within 12 seconds, have an alert on that vehicle. There are a lot of great benefits to this program. We're using all drug forfeiture funds for me I've authorized it to the police departments to use their drug forfeiture funds to pay for the annual maintenance costs and the annual tie-in fee. And again, we're working with dozens of commercial businesses and nonprofits throughout the county in order to pay for the installation costs. I think within the first couple of days of Beaver turning its system on, I think in January, they solved several major crimes.
Well, he used a specific incident in which it helped one of the residents in New Swiftly. The resident was suffering from dementia and
Yes.
Alzheimer's. And this gentleman was driving aimlessly around the county and nobody could find him.
Yes.
They tracked him down in Washington County and then were able to bring him back home.
Yes.
But let me play the devil's advocate. The gentleman last night had a photo of the guy's car and driver's license. The member of council said, you have to be part of that system to get that photo and to be part of that organization.
Yes.
He said, we're not part of that system. How did you get that photo?
That's a good question. This
So-
entire network is covered by the state statutes governing confidential criminal justice information. By putting these cameras in place, I will serve as a right-to-know officer for all distribution, and police officers are only allowed to access the data
Okay,
for law enforcement purposes.
that's a good question.
Yes.
But how am I to know that as a resident or as the persons who are involved in that system are not using that to track an
Yes.
ex-wife, to track where somebody is going
Yes.
that is not supposed to be. So that's
We get that issue
okay.
every day in every police department in Pennsylvania regarding confidential police information and investigation data. And there are security requirements. Only certain police officers, certain police departments, certain individuals who pass background checks are permitted to access the data only for specific law enforcement purposes.
Well, it
And
hasn't
when-
even been instituted yet, and there's a breach.
Well, again, I don't know, I know that, that's speculative.
I'm assuming that the chief of police has this picture because he was looking for the gentleman in Washington County, sent it up and said, is this him?
Well, again, I don't know enough
I don't know the
about that
circumstances of it.
instance. But what I'm telling you is this system is designed, it's specifically structured to comply with state law and state ethical requirements and record production requirements to make sure that every chief of police can look in the database and see who's accessing the data and what they're using it for to make sure that there is no abuse. Just like right now they can see if an officer improperly prints data, every year in Beaver County you have 1 or 2 officers who are caught by their departments or by the state inspection system. This is all audited. Every now and then you do have an officer who's tracking an ex-wife or someone.
Yeah, right.
And
I
there are
get
severe
that.
penalties upon the department and the officer.
I just thought it was a good conversation to have.
It's an excellent conversation to have.
So-
I was
We
waiting
we had a
until
meeting in here, you explained all that with the police chiefs.
Yes, we did. We invited all the police chiefs in here to do a demonstration
Right.
here about 2 months ago. Yes.
Also, the conversation was that the gentleman that is now going to be on the drug task force, he also comes with a K-9. He is a K-9 officer.
Yes.
So that conversation started, I believe, last week or the week before in regards to our county having the K-9, another K-9. And we have received a couple of letters from different police departments advocating for the county to have a K-9. And there is a meeting tomorrow at the 911 with chiefs of police and the sheriff, and I believe the DA is included in all of that. I'll tell you, I'm going to refrain from attending that meeting because I believe that it should be done in public. I believe that the residents of Beaver County need to be heard heard from the chiefs of police, and I understand it's going to be an informational meeting, but I believe that the residents need to hear from the chiefs of police and from all of us. I would like them to hear that discussion. So I'm not going to be attending that meeting tomorrow.
Was that a question?
That's a
I think
statement.
it's a statement.
Okay.
That's a statement. I just want to explain my absence. The Maple Syrup Festival is coming up this weekend, this Saturday and Sunday. You can get pancakes and syrup at the lodge at Brady's Run. And have we had an answer on the Rifle and Pistol Club in regards to the fee?
I called the attorney for the Chiefs of Police Association, the solicitors, Sherry Hurst, yesterday in preparation for today's meeting to get an update, and she has not received it. So she sent out a letter, and she has not received a response, but does plan on attending their next meeting. So I'll continue to.
From the Sportsman's Club, right?
Yes, their next meeting to request that they pass the necessary motion that would be required to continue to allow our police departments to use, train, and certify at this facility.
Okay, and also we received a letter from the Greek Orthodox Church in Aliquippa. They're celebrating 100 years of being a beacon of light and hope to the faithful. Maybe we should do a proclamation. I think
I
did you? Okay.
Yes.
Well, that was
Awesome.
my recommendation too.
Awesome. I think
that's
that's yes, worth
That's right.
recognizing. And last week, executives from Shell came into town and toured 3 facilities, recycling facilities, with our director Holly Voigt, and they're very interested in looking at additional fundings and ideas in which Holly can expand her recycling center. So I thought that was a really proactive approach that Shell is taking, and they brought in people from their Houston office and in Texas, and so I thought that was an excellent thing that they did. And I also received a letter from a resident that is asking us to take a look at the bailout for First Energy, and I didn't realize that maybe that was something that I didn't hear that we were going to bail them out, but her thought process is that we should more use our rivers for a hydro plant to produce energy. So I wrote back to her and let her know what we have done in regards to First Energy and the support letters that we have. So, and I think that covers my issues.
No, I just have the farm preservation.
Any other business?
Mike, do you have any events from the Humane Society that you would like to tell?
Absolutely.
Good.
Thank you for asking.
Sure.
We do have the Tea for Tails. It's coming up on Sunday.
Okay.
And there's still tickets available. And it's a nice event. It's been going on for a few years. It's Hopewell Township Fire Department. Gets about 220, mostly women, who wear their Kentucky Derby hats and eat little sandwiches and drink tea. That's our next big event is coming up, and Pets Pictures with the Easter Bunny is going on at the Pets Plus out in Chippewa on Sunday. So take your pets out, and the proceeds benefit the Humane Society. And since you asked, I did come today as a representative of the Humane Society with a check for $10,000 for the Sheriff's Department K-9 unit. As a nonprofit, we're the pass-through for the Roethlisberger Foundation, and they released the checks, $10,000 for the county K-9 unit and $10,000 for Center Township Police Department. So be aware of that.
How are you involved?
because we're a nonprofit, and the Roethlisberger Foundation has to release the funds to a nonprofit to pass through to the Sheriff's Department and to Center Township in this case.
So you partnered with our sheriff to apply for the grant?
They obviously used us as a nonprofit on their application to pass it through, because the Roethlisberger Foundation has to release the funds to a nonprofit.
Center Township did as well.
What's that? Center Township as well, yes.
Garen, can you get with Mike after the meeting to discuss, not discuss, but handle the check, or what, 'cause we haven't made our decision on behalf of the board yet.
Cool.
Or Nate, one of you. Thank you, Mike. Any other business? Any audience participation? Can we go to Mr. Woolley first? Sorry, you're.
Howdy, I got 2 or 3 things, mostly financial. Have we settled with all the open salary negotiations? Is that budget?
The contract negotiations, no, they haven't been resolved yet.
We have one
We have
tentative.
one tentative, we're waiting for the union to vote on, the other ones are still in negotiations.
Nothing's in our nothing's with us, right?
No.
It's all.
Right.
Wow,
It's
I
all
thought this
with
was
them.
like year end, so we have a ways to go with this negotiation?
Eventually, some of them are going to go to arbitration.
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
But there is adequate funding, I know I ask
Yes.
this frequently. Okay, the financial status right now, I know we have our guy here looking at it, but financially, where do we stand on a comparison? You said like once a quarter, we'd have them in to report on expenditures. I don't know how much we have in a common use fund to appropriate things like roofs or vehicle procurement, which is not part of the department budget. How is that going? How are we financially?
so, last time he was here, he gave a report financially. We are ahead, but that's because our treasurer's office has collected nearly almost double the amount that was collected last year at this time.
Right.
But with that being said, we're in the process of starting our audit from 2018. The books are closed. They had to be closed by a certain time. So once that audit's complete, we'll be able to give a
An
report
adjustment.
on how we ended and adjust the budget from 2019.
But you are confident or comfortable with
All our
our
departments are
financial
within
status?
budget, yes.
Now, we did do, we had somebody do a 2 or 3 year, I keep saying 5 or longer, but a 2 or 3 year forecast on our financial.
We had someone do an
Concern?
assumption that if we made no changes in 5 years,
Yes.
we'd be in a $30 million deficit. But by law, we cannot do that. So you don't have to worry, Mr. Woolley. We're not going to.
You're not going
pass on
30
a balanced
million
budget.
back, but
Yes.
some of the issues he raised, and one of the surprises at administrative, that is not going to take place.
I'm sorry?
He was suggesting that the county bring somebody in to help with the departments, to manage departments, but also to look at the finances. We
You're
used to
like
have
a
somebody.
chief of staff, financial
Yes.
administrator. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, yeah, we made that decision late last year that we didn't believe it would be in the best interest to do so. But we did bring someone on board who's handling our finances. It's
From
doing-
Harrisburg.
It's doing a good job. I
Excellent.
believe he's doing a great job. That's just my personal opinion. We are financially sound in 2019 so far. Or, we're ahead of budget on collections for. We're going to be able to pay back our TAN note potentially
Right.
earlier and save $100,000+ on interest. And
But
other than that, we're taking the other steps that I believe, we all agree to disagree on certain things, but, our law department, our HR, our outside counsel are working very hard to use these contract negotiations. The first one that has a tentative agreement seems to be where our target was.
Yeah, within the recommendation of that report,
Yes.
a lot of it had to deal with collective bargaining agreement issues.
Yes.
That we have been utilizing in our collective bargaining negotiations.
So this year we're comfortable, and really based on not having a formal review or forecast of 2 or 5 years ahead. The concerns that were raised then seem to be under control now.
I just talked to Corey before the meeting, and he said we're doing well. This is only the third day into the second quarter, so
Right.
it's going to take time to get the numbers in place for the first quarter. And once we have them, we'll be able to tell you.
Okay. I also had a question concerning the Russellsberger money, because I know there was an issue with the sheriff doing it or the county doing it. That is still being contemplated. The funds are available to the county, but how they'll be used is not yet been determined by you.
That is correct. I didn't know Mike would be here today, which he's always welcome to come every Wednesday. But
Especially with a check.
I didn't. Yeah, especially with a check. I didn't know that the Humane Society was a nonprofit, applied for it, or not applied for it. They were pastor. I'm sorry. Yeah, they didn't apply for it. I didn't know that they were the nonprofit on the application. Tomorrow we're going to be having a discussion with several chiefs of police, the sheriff, the DA, and whoever the district attorney brings. I didn't know that. I don't know if the K-9 comes on the drug task force, this new gentleman from New Swigley, or not. I don't know how he deploys his drug task force. So the discussion will be informational tomorrow, as Commissioner Egley said. We're going to get the opinions, I think, of these chiefs of police. I think, it's hard to bring chiefs of police to come to these meetings, because if they want to come here, they might have to get approval from their board, and their board might not approve them to come to something like this in an open setting. We're going to be able to, I will be able to, and Commissioner Medeo and the district attorney, he's welcome, and the sheriff, the following work session meeting will be able to come with what was said from the chiefs of police.
Good.
As Commissioner Egley said, we've had a few letters of support from chiefs of police and police departments, municipalities, who wouldn't support it. It's another, use. It's another something we're paying for to help the municipality. Also, I don't see why we're going to get any backlash, but we may. So that's still an ongoing thing. That's why I think Garen and Nate are going to get with Mike to see what to do with this check.
Yeah.
I know I asked the sheriff last time if he could provide us, and I haven't seen it yet, something about the grant on what can we use the money on and what can't we use the money on, and also how long we have to use the money, because we could always put the money in an account and not use it.
Okay.
Where if we don't use it, we could give it back to the Roethlisberger Foundation, say by December 31 of 19. So I think there's some guidelines that we're still trying to wrap up, because as Commissioner Avery said last time we talked about the work session, none of us knew about it until it was reported to us that they were receiving the grant.
The last question, good. Last question deals with that gambling location development. That's still on track, and the county is still in favor of what they're doing up there.
I haven't had much conversation with them. I don't think Big Beaver has as well. I think they're tentatively on the Gaming Board Commission for September for the approval of all.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it's just them. I think it's all they're still doing Category 4 hearings across the state. So those aren't complete. So I haven't reached out. I think the land is maybe.
Yeah, I can tell you from Big Beaver's end that there hasn't been anything submitted as far as zoning applications or anything along those lines yet. I still
But
think
the
they're
county
waiting.
is involved in
No.
and having any restrictions or guidelines.
So the
to
county
them?
has, as we stated before, the county has nothing to do with the casino, the property, or the development of anything up there.
Yeah, we don't have countywide zoning, so the
Okay.
municipality deals with
Just
other
the-
issues.
You're gonna have to
Flights.
start. You're gonna have to start going to Big Beaver Borough meetings.
I like that. I'll catch a ride with you.
I'm not. I don't get.
Oh, you just got
I was all
yourself
set to
right
go
in
down to
there.
DC, but I never.
Yeah, you put yourself right in there.
But no, any information we would get from whether it was the organization building it or the state is if we reached out and found out what was going on, because at the end of the day, we don't have anything to do with it. There's no.
Yeah, at this point, they're basically, from what I understand, still waiting to get approval from the state.
From the state.
Once they get that, then they're going to have to go to the local municipality, which in this case would be Big Beaver Borough, for any of their zoning issues or other matters for building the actual facility itself.
It's just like the Shell Cracker plant. We're the cheerleaders to bring things in. We do whatever we possibly can to make things happen. But once it's agreed,
Started,
yeah. It all goes to the municipalities, the sewer authorities, the water authorities, the townships. I mean, we don't get
Conditions.
involved in that level.
Well, they're doing a good job across the river. They have still a few more cranes to add to their record-setting limit. And the-
Beaver County bird.
And the third tallest crane in the country is over there. But you're still involved in reviewing, offering advice, participating. So I think that's good.
Hey,
Thank you.
Matt?
Yeah, I just want to double check something that you said earlier, Sandy. You said that Aliquippa did turn in their papers.
They did,
And
to
South
the
Heights
assessment
did not.
office. South Heights did not,
Okay.
yes.
That's all.
Hi, I'm Laura Lee Bernicky from the Beaver County Genealogy and History Center. And I remember speaking to you months ago about starting genealogy classes for people interested in learning how to do their family genealogy and family histories. Now, I'm pleased to say we're about to start those. A little nervous because I'm the one that has to teach them. But there's no programs out there. You can't go online and buy it and use that program to teach people. So I had to create the PowerPoints and everything myself for these classes. They're going to be 3 in a session. They'll be about 2 hours long in the evening. It's going to be May 28th and June 4th and 11th. And we're charging $35 for them. So it's geared towards the person, the beginning genealogist, somebody who thinks, well, maybe I want to do this, but I'm not sure how to go about it. So that's, hopefully it'll be a success.
And where are you from?
It'll be at our center, down at the end of the street, the old 9-1 complex.
Downstairs.
It's called Beaver Station, yes, down in the underground.
Do you have a flyer or anything?
I do. I will bring some up to you. I've asked Cynthia.
My
if-
wife's really
if-
interested in this.
She was down there, I can't
I don't
tell
know
you
if
the
I-
conversations we
I
had.
don't know if I want to
I know a whole lot
research
more than
my
the
genealogy.
information. She did sign up for her membership too.
Did you? Good.
Yeah, so, and then if anybody has any questions, just call us down there or stop in.
I may get
Great.
hooked over this.
Thank you.
Have another one.
Yeah.
One for
Thank
you,
you.
one for her.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Oh, you would like one
Mr. Woolley
too?
will be there.
I will be there.
Well, here you get two, because they stuck.
Yeah.
You would like one as well? And I have a few more videos.
Any other audience participation? Any reason to reconvene from executive session? I know District Attorney Lozier requested. Did you guys have it?
I did, yeah, I did too,
Okay, so
personnel.
For the 2 personnel reasons.
We wouldn't.
Okay. We'll adjourn, go into executive session, not reconvene.
Have a great day.
Almost that full.